Good evening, everyone. My name is Drinks Glue. Tonight we have some Ultros League action for you from our Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide community. And allow me the pleasure of introducing our broadcast booth. I'm going to turn this on over to Arusta, Ceres, and Sigil, who will be commentating tonight. And Arusta, how you doing tonight, my friend?
I am doing very, very well. Thank you, Drinks Glue. My name is Arusta, and my co-commentators today will be Cerise and Sigil. We are doing a Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide randomizer seed today. So that is, if you're not familiar with it, Final Fantasy VI, formerly known as Final Fantasy III on the Super Nintendo. So this is a randomized version. You start with the airship and 3 characters, and then basically you find checks and find key items. The goal is to get enough characters and espers to find your way to Kefka's tower and beat Kefka like you would in the normal game. The checks are based on the characters, so it's events that had something to do with the character in the first place. So for example, Terra, who used to be climb the Zozo Tower, if you remember that from the original game, if you have Terra, you can go get an item there. So what we have today is a thing called Ultros League. So Sigil, would you mind describing what Ultros League is and where things are?
Okay. Ultros League is an 8-week event where everyone's placed into different divisions and pods. And sorry. And the scaling is for every Esper character in Dragon defeat, the enemies gain +2 levels and +2 to HP and all that fun stuff. Cerise, do you want to explain some more?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as a lowly tonic runner, which is the lowest division, I have been trying to aim for the top 2 in my particular tonic pod, which is tonic B. And if I am able to do that, I'm able to go up to potion. And then we have potion division, elixir, and then mega elixir, which is the tippy top. And these 2 are in elixir and trying to get to mega elixir.
Absolutely. And the thing to note as well is that currently, with the way the standings are, Taco Mage is currently in first place, and Taco Mage, with a decent showing today, is in very good shape to move up to Mega Elixir, which is the very top division. Fitz is in third place, and if Fitz does well tonight, Fitz will be able to move up to Mega Elixir as well, because only the top 2 places come in between Taco Mage and Javinator, in between Taco Mage and Fitz is Javinator, who is 2 points clear of Fitz, so Fitz really needs a win today to move up. We'll see how things go.
And Mega Elixir is quite the spicy division to be in because all divisions are subject to people getting dropped out to lower divisions, I believe, but it's a lot more competitive in Mega Elixir.
Yes. You're correct, Cerise. In Mega Elixir, the bottom 6 get dropped down, while in the rest of the divisions, the bottom 2 gets dropped down.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a fair handful of people in the Elixir division who are previous Mega Elixir runners who have gotten the boot because things just get so competitive up there.
Yes. Cerise, was this your first Ultros League?
It was, yeah. This is my first one. Was it? I believe it was yours as well.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
All right, and we are off right now. So we have, I believe, Shadow, Gao, and Sabin. So what do you guys think of this starting party?
I like it because it gives you 2 great grind fight checks in the trench and the Imperial base, and it gives you some free checks like in the collapsing house in the World of Ruin.
Mm. Yeah, and having Gao early is nice because you know you need to get that dried meat. And the way that you do the dried meat check on the Velt, it will pull up any random encounters you've already had. So if you're able to do it before you get any encounters, you just get 1 easy encounter against a little Lobo Wolf.
Yes, and there's one other secret benefit here is that the Velt check requires less than 4 characters, which, later in the seed, you will be walking around with 4 characters the entire time. But if you make dried meat your first check, you save yourself the time of having to menu and change your party output.
I believe I saw one character with health and another with magic tech.
Yes, and just some standard shopping here. You'll see both players bought some Revivifies. Those, if you're not familiar with the vanilla game, they cure a zombie, but the really important thing is they are instant kills for undead. So that can be a very good way to get some easy experience, or especially early in the siege, just instant kill some weak undead enemies.
Yeah. So Reese, as a newer runner, what would you be looking out for during your initial looting route?
So I would be looking for actually a lot of the things they've already found. So they found sleeping bags, which are handy for easy recovery at save points. As far as accessories, they found earrings. Earrings raise your magic power. You can equip 2 of them, and scaling for magic, especially in the early game in this game, is absolutely busted. So if you're able to get as much magic power as possible, you can make short work of pretty much anything. And I'm also looking for things like rods, which I believe they found ice rods. I didn't see if anyone purchased them.
Both of them bought 1 ice rod, because ice rods, if you're not familiar, they do a tier 2 magic spell, but they do typically magic has like a roll of damage, range of damage. It does guaranteed max damage, and it also, I believe, ignores magic defense. So it does.
You're correct.
Quite a bit of
It ignores magic defense.
And I would also be looking for a dried meat, which I don't believe they've seen yet. So on our standard looting path, we're going to be stopping at a few shops trying to find that. We've had a few seeds recently where people have had to check upwards of 10, 15 shops before they've been able to find something. So hopefully they'll just find it on their standard path.
Yes, and they just pulled a Thunder Shield out of the Returner's hideout here. Thunder Shield, similar to rods, can be broken, except Thunder Shields and are tier 3 magic, so they're even more powerful. They also, of course, are an equipable item that are very desirable because it gives you immunity or absorption to a lot of the common elements. Very good item to have.
Yes.
And they teach you level 2 spells, which is, especially early game, can get you through a lot.
Absolutely, and you see both runners here are going to be purchasing warp stones. Warp allows you to leave places immediately. Generally, if you're playing, it is a good thing to buy 3, 5, something like that, a handful early to get you out of checks, because there are a lot of checks where you can bail out.
Yeah, I generally like to buy 5 early.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like 3 is the amount that I'm guaranteed to use, but sometimes if something's particularly bad, you gotta leave and come back. Or you just end up doing every single check that happens to require a warp stone to get out quickly, so you might as well have some extra.
Yep, and one thing to note here, if you're watching and you're unfamiliar with the randomizer, you see both runners are running the same. So these are fairly common early game looting, because you can see they're picking up a lot of items, they're getting a lot of shop checks. So this Returner's hideout to South Figaro play is very, very common early in the game. One thing to note is that South Figaro actually has different items in the chests, whether you're in World of Balance or World in Ruin, which actually mirrors the vanilla game. So sometimes you will see runners even loot both South Figaros.
And you tend to see a little bit less looting in the higher divisions because they're just trying desperately to claw as much time as they can out of it. But, as a tonic runner, I say the best thing about this game is opening as many chests as you possibly can. And there's our dried meat.
Absolutely, that is big. And then both as well seeing echo screens, which cure silence / mute. Those sort of generic status restoring items are fairly cheap, usually worth buying a couple of, because it's so cheap and saves you later in the seed if you need it.
Do you guys like doing your free checks right away?
I do, yeah. I typically try, because as your checks go up, as long as you're getting espers and characters, if it's just an item check, it doesn't up your scaling. But while it does make enemies harder, it does allow you to get more experience. So especially if I'm facing down a bunch of random encounters early with things like Sabins, Imperial Camp Check, and Serpent Trench, I'd like to get the scaling a little bit higher so I can get as much experience out of that as possible. Although you do want to be careful not to go too wild on it, because starting out at level 3, you are weak to basically everything.
Yes, and an interesting play here. Fitz, you see Taco Mage, after doing some of the shops just visible, kept and went into this basement where you see Taco Mage right now. Fitz did not go into the basement and instead flipped over to World of Ruin. So you see here, Fitz is opening the same barrels and chests that he did before, but is now getting different items. because like I mentioned, you actually can get different items here. So Fitz is going to do, I think, a little more looting from flipping over the World of Rune and get to check a few more shops because the shops are different as well.
Yeah, which he just bought a True Knight just in case he gets a VK user.
What makes True Knight good for VK?
The person equipping the True Knight would act like Paladin Cecil from Final Fantasy IV and protect the guy with low HP and take every physical hit for them.
Yes, and a VK, if anyone's not familiar, is called it's a Valiant Knife, so it does bonus damage based on how low your health is. So, if you're at 500 out of 3,000 HP, like you might be late in the seed, you're doing a ton of bonus damage, really, really crushing enemies quickly.
And we saw some good stuff in the basement. We saw that fire shield and an Atma weapon.
And I believe an ice shield.
And an ice shield. So that's like 3 elemental shields we've seen at this point. Atma weapon, not too useful right now, but is one of the best scaling weapons in the game.
Yeah.
So we'll be very excited to see that.
You just need to get your character to level 32 to start getting it rolling.
Absolutely, and Taco Mage buying a second Esper there from the Zen Thief. So if you're familiar with vanilla game, you can buy, I believe it's Golem there, I think. One of the Espers you can buy there. Same thing here in Worlds Collide, except it can be any sort of a check, and it does have different prices in World of Balance or World of Rune, so if you find it super expensive, a common play would be to flip worlds and see if you can get it cheaper.
And Fitz just took off the Moogle Charm, so we're doing the belt. That's one thing you can do if you go into the World of Ruin, like Fitz did, is you can do this belt check in either world. Oh, and we've got Strago.
Oh.
Everybody loves to see. Sigil, do you have any words about Strago?
I pretend he doesn't exist. He generally has mediocre stats. How do you feel about Strago with GP rain?
GP rain can be handy early, especially if I'm lacking some damage or I know I'm doing a lot of random encounters like with Imperial Camp and Serpent Trench. And he does have a pretty decent magic stat, which is always nice to see, especially with all these elemental shields around.
Yeah, Taco Mage just showing off how many shields they've got, and as well, I believe, looking at that Crusader Esper, which had a nice strength +2, which is very, very good, because stat bonuses in Worlds Collide really add up, but you don't need just a few levels, you kind of need a decent number, so being here at level 3 this very first battle is probably going to get the person who has it equipped, get them up to level 9, so that's a solid plus, 15, 20 strength there, and will really help their physical attacks.
Especially with that Atma weapon that we picked up earlier.
Did you see if anyone could equip it?
That's a good question. I didn't notice. Hopefully we'll get somebody who can.
Yes.
I didn't see, but I did see Taco Mage spend a little time in the menu, so I assume they probably put that Strength Esper on the person who can equip it, because Atma Weapon is one of the few commands where you would have like a fight command, which straight runs off of Strength.
And that is one of the interesting things about this party composition is you don't have a lot of, there is some randomization to which characters can equip what, but these aren't the best for some of those really heavy-hitting items like, Atma weapons. And even if Gao can without an attack command, I'm not going to be doing much with all that strength.
Yep. Meanwhile, Fitz is doing the burning house or collapsing house here. So there are some monster in a boxes. Don't know if Fitz is going to take them or not, but there are 2 monster in a boxes, and this is also a free check, which can be basically anything character Esper item.
And not having done any grinding yet, the scaling is going to be a little bit higher for Fitz, but that can usually be overcome just in a couple of fights as long as you don't get too unlucky.
Which Taco is going to get her very own Strago soon.
And here's one of the risks of doing battles before you go to the Veldt. I believe that bug battle won't let you get the character spawn. It's usually if there's 3 of a kind or more, or if there are 5 enemies in the formation, the character Esper won't spawn.
And the collapsing house was a fixed dice reward. How do you guys feel about fixed dice?
It's kind of a question in the community. So fixed dice, for those who aren't familiar, so they basically do random damage. It's somewhat dependent on level, like it gets higher level, but you can do even high damage at low levels because it depends on what the numbers on the dice are. But it's also incredibly slow, probably the slowest physical attack in the game. So it's nice, but it's also kind of, I don't love them.
I feel myself always staring at the clock if I have a fixed dice offering.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, offering lets you attack 4 times with the fight command, and the dice is, I believe, the slowest physical attack in the game. So you'll be, ready for a bathroom break if you do a couple of those attacks.
Yes.
I am a fan of doing Dragoon Boots and Dragonhorn with it. It gets you something similar, but you use the jump command speed, which is a lot quicker.
Yep, Taco Mage picking up their Strago, so with Fitz having done the Zen check, they are basically tied right now in about the same spot, so we'll see where they both choose to go next. All these characters they still have a lot of options flying out there.
Which Shadow can equip the fixed dice?
Oh, perfect.
Yes.
And, as much as I'm not a big fan of fixed dice offering because of how much time it takes, if you're able to equip that on somebody in the final tower climb, you can brute force your way through almost any encounter because of that fixed damage. Especially if you have Merit Award, then anyone can equip it. It's gotten me out of a few bad situations.
It got me out of those also.
Doesn't mean I'm happy to use it, but I'm also happy to move on. And Taco is in the trench.
Yeah, and based on location, looks like Fitz is going to be there in just a sec. So one thing to note, if you were familiar with earlier versions of this randomizer, the battles here used to be quasi-random, so both runners might get different battles. Now the RNG is seeded so that both runners will have the same battles if they go the same route. So there won't be some major divergence where one person gets great battles and one people get terrible, or vice versa.
And it looks like Strago just learned Life 3. I don't know if that was natural magic or if that was from one of the Espers.
So the Esper Crusader has Life 3 in addition to the Strength +2 bonus.
That's quite the Esper.
Yeah, you at least have some form of tier 3 protection now.
So Jill, what would you be looking for as far as stuff for preparing for Final Kefka? I know it's a little bit early, but there's still stuff we want to be seeing.
I would be hoping for some like tier 3 spells at least for my spellcasters. And maybe like another big stick or two. And a Genji glove. And hopefully, me personally, some sort of cure spell. So I don't have to rely on items. Or have 4 shields. Elemental shields to cast attack magic on myself to heal.
Yeah, so I think if we're looking at the party we have now, so that GP Rain you see they're using, it does a lot of stuff now, but it's not really long-term reliable. Magitech, if they get the Magitech Factory, which would require Celeste, Tech Missile is a long-term viable option, so if they have Celeste, Gao is set, and then the fixed dice or the Atma weapon could be a second character or a third character, and then you just sort of you can hopefully rely on magic for the force.
Yeah.
So that would be my thought right now.
Yeah, and I'm also hoping for like an Atlas or like a heal ring to boost the Atma weapon user. Since the Atlas increases fight physical damage by 25%. And the heal ring has the effects of both the Atlas and the earrings.
I'm seeing a lot of love in the chat for Strago. So thank you everybody for supporting this old man. So Sigil, what do you think you would be doing after this trench? We still have a lot of checks available to us right now.
I would go to Imperial Camp. And then make my way through the rest of Saban's checks.
Saban having a lot of quick checks, and the Imperial Camp another good way to get levels early. And we've got Terra, who has a handful of some great checks.
And she has
Yes.
throw.
And she has throw, immediately getting rid of the old man.
Yeah, throw is a excellent command. It is basically a long-term viable play, especially since they both bought shurikens, which are super cheap, so those you always want to buy even if you see them. But then you can also buy the tier 2 spells effectively in throw item commands format, and they've both seen, I think, a couple of those, though they didn't buy them.
Yeah, if you get that strength 2 on somebody, honestly, shurikens will be doing quad 9s in the, in the final dungeon, final boss. And I believe Terra can equip Atma.
Yes, she can.
But honestly, unless I had Atma weapon offering or something for her, I might just keep her on shuriken duty.
I would keep her on shuriken duty if you have someone else who can use the Atma, because, Atma you can have a bunch of people equip. Shuriken throw is just going to be just Terra, so... Also, one thing to note, I did see Taco Mage sell up a bunch of money to buy a cat hood. Cat hoods are secretly one of the very good equipable items. They have good physical defense, I believe some minor magic resistance, but they also double the money you get from battles.
It looks like nobody could equip it unless I missed something. So maybe we're just hopeful.
I believe it gives you fire, lightning, and ice resistance.
Yeah, not immunity, but resistance.
And aside from throwing shurikens, we can also throw the skeins and the edges, which give us good AoE fire damage, water damage, and lightning damage.
Which I believe pierces magic defense, if I'm correct.
It does. And it is roughly equivalent to slightly better than a tier 2 spell in terms of raw power. And Terra has high magic naturally, so they're going to be very nice there. As well, one thing to note, those Magus hats, 600 gold, they are probably the best cheap item in in Worlds Collide. For 600 gold, you get plus a big magic power boost, so very worth buying. I will often buy 3 or 4, even if I don't have anyone who can equip them right then, because they're so cheap.
Yeah, the way magic scales in this game, especially early, most of what I'm looking for in the early part of the seed is just anything I can do to get my magic stat up, and anything I can do to be casting magic as much as possible.
Yes, I know we talked about where we would go, and I believe, Sigil, you said Imperial Camp, which is what Taco Mage is doing. Fitz here, actually, when you see the Terra, I kind of like what Fitz is doing, because you can see you're going to get a bunch of items here. It's a free check, but it can have progression, and this is the best looting area in the game right here, this Imperial Camp. Or excuse me, this base here. So I love doing that early if I have Terra.
Absolutely. And we did find Dragoon boots in case we decide we want to jump with those dice. Otherwise, I don't believe we got anything particularly astounding there, just some good items. And the Imperial Camp seems to be pretty standard, nothing too spicy.
What would you guys be thinking right now once you had Terra?
I would be thinking, finally, I have somebody who can do something.
That, and I would also be thinking like Fitz did, dropping everything to go make this check. Terra also has a couple other checks which are nice. Welk is a very quick check and can be comboed into some of the nurse checks. As well, Zozo. Ooh, I guess Fitz forgot to re-equip their Moogle charm. Everyone's done that one. But yeah. And then I would also be thinking long-term, the Mobliz check is one of my favorite long-term checks to have last. It's a peekable check and a very quick peek.
I just hate when it says Ragnarok.
Yeah, why is that, Sigil? Why would that bother you?
Yeah, because we have the Esper that's called Ragnarok, and also one of the best swords in the game is called Ragnarok. I don't like making that decision if it's an Esper or not.
We do it for its fighting. I believe that's the Money Bear.
Yeah, Taco Mage is going to smoke bomb out of this fight, because this is a fight that gives you magic points but nothing else, and is kind of a pain to fight. All those whatever magic. Ooh, and that is an Illumina, best sword in the game. Also secretly one of the best defensive items in the game.
And if you have a Genji glove and you can equip 2 of them, it's basically like you're wearing another shield anyway.
Why is it pretty much the second best shield?
It's got great. It gives you great defenses. It gives you good stats all around, and I believe it gives you a bunch of evade and magic evade as well.
Yes, 50%.
And one nice thing about being able to put that on Terra is Terra can wear Minervas naturally, and Minervas can make you immune to fire, ice, and lightning damage, which is convenient because if you're doing something like Genji Glove, you're not going to be able to equip a shield, which is usually your elemental resistance.
Yes, and the other nice thing about Illumina is that in contrast to the Atma weapon or even the Ragnarok, which is another top tier sword, Illumina ignores the range penalties. You can put your person in the back row and they get nice bonus defense from being in the back row.
And it looks like Taco also forgetting to take off the Moogle Charm. We wouldn't be sad to see that Stray Cat if we had a Rage user, but otherwise just going to be hopping out of that.
Yes, the one thing, if you're not familiar with how Worlds Collide works, is the leap and rage commands. Rage works like it normally does. You don't have to leap. Anytime you kill an enemy or face an enemy that has a rage, it's learned automatically, just to make that command more useful. So if they find a rage user later, you might consider picking him up just for that ability.
And Taco Mage is going to complete Phantom Train just for the experience egg.
Yeah, ordinarily, one of the things about the train is you can peek and see what the reward is going to be. You get it right at the beginning, but then you have to complete the entire thing. Often, if it's not something like an Esper character, which is what we need to get access to Final Kefka, people often just reset. But that experience egg, especially relatively early on, is going to pay dividends, especially when you've got someone swinging swords and throwing shurikens.
Especially with the +2 strength Esper.
Exactly.
A ninja, I'm not too sure if anyone else can wear the Atma weapon yet.
Yeah, to answer a question in chat, I think Taco Mage looked around and did not find anyone who can equip the Atma yet. So I think that's why Terra's holding the Illumina, because there's no one else who can equip the Atma right now.
Mm-hmm.
I agree, Drinks. I love this move that Taco's doing.
Especially if we haven't taken any dragons yet, which is something that will come up eventually there. Give you a healthy chunk of experience. If you've got that experience egg, it's even better.
Yes. And also a lot of ability points.
Yeah, and Fitz, I like this move going to buy some bolt edges, which are those edges that we talked about, which are basically tier 2 lightning magic that ignores magic defense, and then ninja stars, which are overpowered shurikens. Those 30 ninja stars are basically going to be exactly that, or the skeins are going to be what Terra does the entire rest of the seed for Fitz.
So, Cerise, speaking of dragons, when do you like to route dragons in?
It depends. If I have something like a Super Ball or easy access to rods, sometimes I'll do them earlier, especially if I have something like Mount Zozo I want to do where there's a dragon right on the way. I know you like to do them as early as you possibly can.
Yes.
So you'll definitely, if you find a Super Ball, be throwing those at them. Ooh, and we got a Gigantus fighting box, which is another healthy chunk of experience.
Yes, Gigantos is probably one of the best monster in boxes because Gigantos is the highest individual experience monster in the game. So Taco Mage is going to come up with a bunch of levels from this one.
Yes.
Meanwhile, on Fitz's side is doing the shadow check of the floating continent, which I like this play. Floating continent is a check that requires quite a bit of time, has about a bite of upfront time of investment as well. So you don't want to put it off too long, but it does have, I believe, 3 potential pieces of progression. So it's one of those checks that's nice to do in the mid game where you can still use any kind of progression you can get.
And once again, working out of the level magic fight, not only are they not particularly lucrative, they also tend to be pretty dangerous. So we have a handful of fights here before... Ooh, and we got Atma.
I believe this is the floating continent version.
No, this is the Atma, the Toilet Atma
Ah,
from Kefka's Tower. So this is going to be pretty beefy. Was that an Illumina prop there?
yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
The thing about this Atma, is that it is only vulnerable to the standard 3, Fire, Ice, Lightning. Everything else it absorbs. So for Illumina, that's kind of problematic, and that's why you see Taco Mage looks like they're going to switch over to throwing stuff just to avoid procs.
What other elements does this Atmos absorb?
Everything that's not Fire, Ice, Thunder.
So that'd be poison, holy, earth, water, you know, all the things you think you never use until you start swinging in Illumina. Ooh, we've got another fun boss up here, Haydn.
Yeah, I do like having Strago cast Haste here, because Haste 2 actually works really well, and especially when you've got a character who's not really doing a whole lot, and something like this fight where you could lose a lot of time just to watching those Hide Knights pointlessly attack. So Haste 2, so you can get them done quicker, very worth it. Good choice there.
So we saw Taco make it through that beefy fight, and now we've got Fitz doing Haydn. Hopefully we're going to make it through okay, because this is an annoying check to have to do again.
Do you guys think it's going to be a character, Esper item at the bottom of the falls?
I think it's going to be... Let's see what the boss is. Okay, it's Ultros.
It's going to be an Esper. I'm confident.
I'm going to say it's going to be a Force Armor.
I'm going with the Go-Go.
We've got Dwyer in chat being nice and saying character, and not specifying an annoying character like Go-Go.
Meanwhile, Fitz getting through that battle. Nice job.
And we have a question in chat from Drinks Glue. I have a question: why can't Fitz use a Phoenix Down on Haydn and kill him that way? Because in the vanilla game, Haydn is an undead boss, and you can kill undead bosses with Phoenix Down. We actually have a flag in the Ultros League settings to disable that. So it'll work on... Ooh, we've got another spicy boss, Doom. And we've got everyone's favorite attack, Northland Cross. Only the one freeze, which is nice. That freeze lasts about 90 seconds unless you can heat them up with a fire spell.
Yeah, and one thing to note is you do get healed between those two fights, but this Doom is not what you want to see, because Doom, especially at this stage, this Flash Rain is going to do a bunch of damage. Yeah, not what you want to see this early.
Yeah, I would be tempted to pop a shield at this point. You know, I think Fitz will make it through, but this is again another boss with a lot of HP, so it can be a bit to go through.
Yeah, and the other thing with the way Fitz is doing damage, you are going to see that force field like we're seeing right now, which I believe is what? Shell, Protect, plus resistance to some elements. It's a bunch of pain. A bunch of stuff you don't want to see.
Yeah.
Yes. And we have Cyan in the Vet Cave check.
Cyan is another favorite character. A lot of people hate on him, but unlike Strago, he has some pretty quick checks.
Yes.
Yes, in these Ultros League settings, Cyan's Dream, which is the 3-part check. One, it has three rewards, so it's nice to do for that, sort of similar to the Floating Continent. But it also, if you have a Sword Tech user, instantly unlocks all the Sword Techs, which Sword Tech is a very good late game command if you open up everything.
Yes. Which the second check in Dream is guaranteed progression. Also.
Mm-hmm. And we've got, this is the martial fight. It's a little bit different in Ultros League because it's not just his two little doggies. It's two other enemies, and the enemies can change. Fortis in particular are pretty annoying. They have a double arm counter, and they're just generally pretty frustrating to deal with.
Yes.
And did you guys happen to see that nice little Esper that Fitz picked up?
Was
No,
that
what
another,
was it?
Cure 3 and Ultima.
was it another
So-
strength +2 as well that I saw?
Oh, I didn't. I was too caught up in the spells, but even if it is, like that's great. That is exactly the kind of Esper you want.
Yeah. One issue with Ultima in the Ultros League settings is that it does cost quite a bit of MP, but that is a solvable problem, and it can get you through a lot of problematic fights.
And Taco pets the dog.
Perfect. We got seed validation from Taco.
Right there, I'll be getting yelled at for not petting the dog. I think back in the Moogle Cup, my mentor actually did laugh at me for not petting the dog.
It's
Yeah,
something that's
I mean-
taken very seriously in this community.
It is.
Yes.
Taco Mage doing a little bit of shopping. That is one nice thing about Tamasa here is all the shops are very compact, so it's a good place to look for stuff if you were just looking for items or things in general. As well, you get here very quickly after a bunch of checks like we just saw, so very convenient.
And we've got someone in chat asking about the randomizer. I don't know if someone wants to give a quick little elevator pitch.
Absolutely. So the way the randomizer works here is, you get characters and their commands are randomized. Everybody has, the fight magic item, but then the commands, their character specific commands like Kara's Morph or Gao's Leap and Rage, etc., are randomized. So everybody gets random abilities. And then for equipment, every character is allowed to equip which they could normally equip in the default game, but then you can also equip on top of that. There's like a 50% chance that they can also equip other stuff.
And when no one was looking, Funbaba went down. So Fitz is getting a lot of pretty beefy enemies in this floating continent. But we still got one more. And Sigil, can you tell me why Taco keeps checking all of these monster in boxes?
Taco's looking for Katana Soul. For when you defeat Katana Soul, you get a lot of money, and also you get the Orphan drop, which the Orphan lets you attack the fight command attack 4 times at 4 random targets, but it's at 50% of the attack power.
Yeah, we tend not to use it with certain big sticks like the Illumina and Ragnarok because those have various procs and such associated with them, but having an Atma weapon is a fantastic combo with the Offering.
And also, the Ragnarok Illumina has auto crit for 20 MP a swing.
That's true. So you basically have to be out of MP for it to be worth using over just swinging normally.
Yeah, and so just to give a quick update right now, in terms of if you're not familiar with it, so if you see on Fitz's side, the 5 out of 6 over the character of Realm, their target are the ones at the bottom. So you need 6 characters, 9 Espers, 0 dragons. So Fitz is at 5, 5. So they're going to need 1 more character and 4 more Espers. On Taco Mage's side, they've got enough characters, but they are a little short on Espers. So Taco Mage is going to be really looking for Espers.
And if you end up getting, I believe it's 9 characters or 12 Espers, or you just do 22 checks, you can skip the first part of this tower and just go straight to the final set of 4 bosses before the final boss. So there is that if you happen to get particularly unlucky getting those. And I believe, did 2 of those Espers forfeits come from the Floating Continent? I know 1 did.
I believe so.
Yes, they did. But that's also something for Taco Mage, as we talked about a little bit before. Floating Continent is quite a bit of time commitment up front. It's probably about 5 minutes before you get your first actual check. So the thing to note there is that, when you're already at a level where you've gotten enough characters, sometimes you want to avoid those multi-part checks just because it feels bad to, go and then just get stuff you don't actually need.
Yeah,
So that's always a decision.
If you happen to do the right checks to get you the next character that you need, you can be gated in that way. But if you already have 6 characters, there's no way that skipping Floating Continent is going to keep you from getting the espers you need. You might miss out on some good ones, or it might take you longer to get them, but you will not be walled by skipping Floating Continent. And is that a vanilla Narapa?
Yes, it is. I don't know if I feel happy about that or sad.
I think you feel a little sad just because Narapa with that condemn that she individually casts on every single character feels like it takes forever. It's not actually that much time, but it just feels like such a waste of time.
I mean, I will say, Fitz probably hasn't saved since first landing on top of the continent, and we've had, a boss already and a lot of running around, so I'm more than happy to see a pushover there. Whereas on Taco's side, we have the Stooges, which can be a little bit frustrating, but probably not going to cause too much trouble.
And that brings Fitz to 5-6.
Yeah, the only thing that Fitz needs to find that cyan is to go to Shadow's World of Ruin check, which is pretty common because it's peekable. So, if a character doesn't come from somewhere else, they're pretty sure to get that.
Indeed, and Fitz as well. One of those espers from the Floating Continent has Bolt 3. The Tier 3 magics, especially with 2 earrings equipped, are basically, that is endgame viable magic right there. So, that's one more character that is going to be set, possibly more than that if you want to teach it to a bunch of characters. So
and
it's very nice to find.
Yeah. And I believe Fitz is going to get his Illumina in a couple of minutes.
Yes, this is where the Illumina came from, which, even though it's a dead check, you're never mad to see an Illumina, just because it is the best sword in the game, and also one of the best defensive items in the game, as we were talking about previously.
And we've got Strength +2 and Merton on that Esper.
So to answer a question in chat as to who's leading, that is kind of difficult to decide at this point. I would say Fitz is a little ahead because Fitz has more espers, but with so much of the seed left to go, it really comes down to who goes to the right places first, and then as well just how long it takes you to kill bosses, because that's secretly a thing that takes a lot of time.
Yeah, Fitz unlocked quite a bit in Floating Continent. But Floating Continent is still a long check, and it had some pretty beefy bosses.
And the Floating Continent Atma weapons try and take over the castle today.
And okay, it got kicked off the continent, and
yes.
now it's trying to be a feudal lord. But this one's a little bit less intimidating than the first Atma we ran into earlier, so we'll make quick work of it. And there's that Illumina. And back to what we were saying about level 3 magic, you don't necessarily need all 4 of your characters at the end of the game to be doing actions. Often just 3 is enough to cover everything you need, and then 1 person on support. But even if your magic stat's really bad, level 3 magic with 2 earrings, you can help out. And this team doesn't have a lot that I'm excited about endgame, so I'd be very happy to see some of that level 3 magic. It's interesting to see a seed with so much divergence.
Yeah. I feel like lately it hasn't been as much divergence as this seed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so here's the interesting question. Since we already know Fitz is going to see an experience egg, do you keep that experience egg or do you reset out of it? Because this is a check you can peek right at the start and save yourselves a couple minutes. Experience eggs are normally valuable, but you're also a lot higher level than when Taco Mage did it earlier.
I'd be tempted to keep it. I mean, we haven't done any dragons yet, and we have good sources of taking advantage of that strength stat, but I wouldn't be surprised.
With Fitz just reset right out of it.
I mean, Fitz has a lot riding on this win.
Yes.
So I can absolutely see not taking that risk because it's not necessarily going to be the thing that gets you to the end of the game. It might make things more comfortable, but especially the way that strength scales and we have those +2 strength espers. I think we're going to be okay without it.
Yeah, generally, as a general rule, long term you want to be somewhere in the 30s of levels when you enter Kefka's tower. Typically, depending on if you're a little under leveled, you can get a few levels from a boss, or excuse me, from a dragon. Opera House Dragon is super quick. So it's something, especially with already having level 3 magic, having throw, having an Illumina. Fitz probably has pretty solid offenses, just like, you know what, I don't really need a ton of levels.
And we've been talking about offenses, but defensively, how much stuff do we have for getting through that final Kefka? Oh, well, speaking of, Taco just got Phantom, which is calmness protection for tier 3. Not the best, but it's workable.
But you just have to time it right.
But I don't know if we've seen Mute or Golem or things like that.
No, I don't think we saw Golem yet.
No, and just to clarify, so when we're talking about defensive, so typically you notice we haven't really mentioned defense before this, because for most of the game, physical defense basically doesn't matter until the very final boss. And even magic defense, magic resistances aren't as big of a deal. We've got elemental shield to provide some resistance. It's when you get to the final boss, you want mute, which instant mutes one of the final boss parts. Instant death, which can kill a couple parts of the final boss really quickly. And then either Golem, Phantom, or Fenrir to dodge a instant kill attack that one of the final bosses does on your party.
And we've got Taco, looks like it's going to take a nap.
And have a nice stream, maybe?
I know we were talking about Fitz seeming ahead, but we've got 5-7 for Fitz and 6-6 for Taco.
Yeah, and this is an interesting one from Taco Mage, doing this multi-part check. And the second one's guaranteed progression, and it does kind of, it's not as long of a check as you might normally imagine, but it does take a bunch of time. So definitely an interesting check, and that is the spicy chicken. That is normally an endgame boss you do not love to see.
Yeah, we've got some ways to take care of it. Spicy chicken has a lot of defense. How would you be breaking through the sigil?
I probably would either attack with the Lumina, hope for procs, equip the Atma weapon, and break rods if I had it, and shields if I had extra.
This Pearl is a very nice choice, though, as well as Shadow deciding to roll super high on those dice. Yeah, it looks like Taco Mage is going to roll through here pretty nice. And then one other thing, just to append to our previous discussion of calmness protection, eNinja correctly pointing out in chat is Mirage Vest, which gives a character the image status that it works on. If you equip it for Final Kefka, they basically have the image status the entire time. It also counts as calmness protection. It is a very nice item to get if you find it.
Which I believe also True Knight could take the calmness hit for a low HP user.
Yes, but then you still lose that character. The thing about the Mirage Vests is, you dodge it.
But if it could be good if that's the character you just want to lose.
Yeah, and the other nice thing is that, like I mentioned, the final boss is the one time where physical defense matters, so the Mirage Vest helps you even on the earlier tiers too, and it does reset between tiers, so
and there's
very nice item.
Not a ton of competition for that equipment slot either. There are some good armors. There's a fair amount that it's hard to find someone who will wear it. Whenever you've got that snow muffler, it's always exactly when somebody can't wear it. So it's a pretty easy slot to take advantage of.
Absolutely.
And one nice thing about doing the dream is the second check can be character or an esper, and it's guaranteed. The first and third checks can be an esper or an item. So knowing that we already have all 6 characters, we don't necessarily. It's nice doing something that's not going to get you a bunch of characters.
Yeah, meanwhile, Fitz at 5'8" here, 5 characters, 8 espers, doing some of the Narsh checks, because these are some very quick checks here.
I'm just hoping that, that cyan's not that hard to come across. So I'm sure it's going to happen eventually, but hopefully that isn't the big roadblock for Fitz.
Well, Fitz still has a bunch of other checks. They've got Zozo, they've got a couple other quick checks, so hopefully that's not the only thing.
And considering they're in World of Ruin, that shadow check probably isn't too far coming.
Do you think your runners are going to see Magimaster today?
Are we going to see it in Dream or just in general? Because it's been showing up in people's dreams quite a lot, but it's true, we haven't seen Magimaster.
I think it's going to be a statue boss, and everybody's going to be super disappointed.
I think it's going to be the last statue boss they face. So does anyone want to explain why Magimaster is so hated, or do we want to wait until he maybe shows up?
Let's wait till a little downtime. Oh, hi, Ghost Train.
And I'm not surprised to see a train hanging out in Cyan's dream. It was a formative experience for him, and there it goes.
Yeah, Fitz, meanwhile, going to picked up their 9th Esper and going up to check. This is the Kefka Narsh fight. So this is a fight this is a check which is actually always available no matter what. But early in the seed, it can be very difficult because you do have to split parties. So if this is one of your very first checks, it's kind of rough. As well, you can see the sprite there. It looked like a merchant. If that was a character, which is what Fitz is looking for, we would have seen the character. So that's why Fitz just looked, turned around, and decided to walk right back out.
And Taco just unlocked Kefka's tower.
That's fantastic for Taco. Now, is Taco just going to go straight to it?
I have not seen Taco's levels recently. Oh, mid-30s. I think you probably are good to go straight to it. Maybe since you don't have skip, this might be a case. Looks like they're stopping for an Esper, or excuse me, stopping for a Dragon. This might also be a case where you consider the full right strategy, where basically you overload your entire party on the right side. You do the first boss, the Inferno spot, and then on your way out also do a Dragon, and then you warp out. So that gets everybody a bunch of levels, gets you through that first boss, Inferno, easier. So that is always an option as well that I personally am a big fan of.
Cheech, do we know how many checks Taco's at?
Yeah, we do. I have Taco at 15 checks right now, so they're a little bit further away from that skip.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Since you're at 15 checks, I don't see you going for it. That's a lot of extra checks to do. And then you also, 3 Espers or 3 characters, like that's way too much. And to answer, just to give some clarification to some questions in chat, so once you get to that 6 characters, 9 Espers, that allows you to enter the final dungeon and face the final boss. So right now, the question is just how soon do you feel ready that, hey, I can make it through the final dungeon, that I can kill the bosses, that I can beat the final boss. So that's sort of what Taco is doing right now, is going to fight a dragon here, which gives you a bunch of levels and a bunch of experience and a bunch of magic points to learn new stuff. So that's sort of what Taco's doing here. Yeah. Then we'll see them go on.
Which fits Margis, the character, and Mobus.
So that will be the answer for Fitz as well. So afterwards, Fitz will be doing that in the same position Taco is. Decide, are you ready to go to the final boss, or do you want to get a bit more levels or experience first?
Yeah, I feel a little bit more confident having that XP egg on that character all game, but they can only go down one lane, and there are still some pretty spicy bosses left over.
Yeah, and good clarification there in chat by Fiery Blizzard. You can actually enter the final dungeon at any time, but you can't actually complete it. The final switches, which target let you into the final boss, you can't do that until you have met the 6 characters, 9 Espers. So
it pushes you back.
In a seed like that, like in most Ultros League seeds, there's no real reason you would ever really want to go into the final dungeon if you're not ready to complete it. Some situations there isn't, not a seed like this.
So I thought when Taco went into Narsh, it was maybe for another dragon, but I'm guessing it was just to check that monster in a box in
Yeah,
the
it was.
tutorial house, trying to get that offering. And there's another experience egg.
Yeah, at this point, probably not super useful.
A Mog with Vanilla Dance command.
Alright, so how are we gonna see Taco splitting up the party? So seeing that Terra in the third party... Oh, never mind. I'm just gonna let Taco make their decisions. Sigil, what are you gonna be thinking about when you're splitting up your party for Final Tower?
I generally like putting my strongest in the right lane to take care of 3 bosses. And then my second strongest tries to do a lane with one of the weaker characters, and then my third and fourth to be in the last lane.
Yeah, so just to provide a little more detail there. So when you split up the party like this, the party on the left side and in the middle, the way people normally do it, will each fight 1 boss, and then the party in the right, that third party, will fight 3 bosses. There's different ways to set it up, so you use slightly different numbers, but that's the most typical way. So the strategy I like to use is that if all my characters are decent, I like to put my 2 strongest characters, I put 1 in the left party, 1 in the middle party, and then my 2 weakest characters in the right party. So I got my 2 C+ characters, and then I got, so they can team up, and then just the A characters, stand alone.
And Fitz doing the Coliseum, finding Atma weapons for Bolt Edge, which is pretty good, so we picked one of those up, and we're getting... I did not see what this was, but it was for a barrier ring.
Oh yeah, Cerise, how would you split up your party?
That's about what I would do, especially if I have a strength scaling character. Having them in that last slot is great because they have the most potential to get the most experience.
Yes, and and levels those wonders for the fight command.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, scaling in this game is very interesting.
Yeah.
But it definitely rewards physical attacking a lot more at higher levels, whereas magic you can pretty much get going crazy early on.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about this fight here, this Coliseum, is in contrast to the normal vanilla game, you're allowed to see specific items. It's, I believe in Ultros League, is it 20 or 30% of the items? Like there's a set percentage of items you get to see what the reward is. So just to incentivize it and make it worthwhile to go there. But you can't really control your characters. Like we saw Fitz having to bail out from that first fight because Terra decided to just start casting a bunch of useless magic and just wasting time. So
and
it's good and it's bad.
It looks like Gao can equip that Atma weapon, which is unfortunately not useful since Gao does not have a fight command.
Yes, because in the vanilla game, Gao has Leap and Rage, 2 unique commands. So in Worlds Collide, the abilities are randomized, so instead gets 2 random abilities, which in this case are Magitech and the Health command.
So right now things are looking really good for Taco. Let's see how these fights shake out. And we've got a softball to start us off. Kefka's throwing underhanded.
Yes.
And there we go.
Where would I go if I want to learn how to play Worlds Collide?
Well, you would go to the Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide website, which is, I believe, ff6worldscollide.com. We also have a Discord, which is very helpful. There's a beginner's house in there where everybody is very willing to help out. There's also something we like to call the Moogle's First Seed. So if you've never played before, we have Seed, which is specifically designed with gentler settings, so you can sort of learn the randomizer. And there are some videos where experienced people have run through the Seed. So if you're having trouble or not sure what to do, you can load up the Seed and you can basically play alongside someone else and see how they did it, see some of the advice they had. So very good way to learn.
And I also heard there's a mentoring system.
There is. So it's called, so there's a mentoring system where you can, if you've run a seed, you can submit a VOD and have someone review it. You can also have someone run a seed alongside you, like sort of talk you through as you play through. There is also something called the Moogle Cup, which happens every so often. I don't think there's a set time for it, but where basically you enter your name in and say, hey, I'd like to work, and it's just like a mini tournament for like the first person.
And we do have a mention in chat saying you probably need to play the vanilla game like 10 times to learn where every chest and dungeon is. One of the nice things that I like about this randomizer compared to some of the other ones is progression isn't really gated behind the chests. The key to Kefka's Tower is never in some random chest that you didn't know existed, which is something that I've run into in some other randomizers. Obviously, playing the vanilla game a lot helps, but I really think that this is a pretty accessible game. All the checks that you need to know about you can see on the tracker, and the community is just super helpful and will answer any question you have at 3 a.m. Oh, and there's Magic Master.
Yes.
I told you it'd be a statue boss.
Oh, yes.
And this
Okay,
is
yeah. So what makes Magic Master dangerous is, besides its high speed, after you do its first attack, it'll do a wall change, which changes the weakness it has, while all the other elements become null and void. And also, every time it attacks, it has a chance to attack twice. But if you have Berserk, you could Berserk it before all that, it'll never change its elemental weakness, it'll just do physical attacks. And if you cast Wall on it, it'll just cast AoE spells most of the time, and damage itself, and it won't trigger the wall change.
Yes, and also, Magimaster has surprisingly high physical defense. So if you're relying on, if you say, oh, well, he absorbs magics, or, is immune to most magic, so here I'll just use physical attacks, that also struggles. Shadow with the fixed dice you saw was able to do a bunch of damage because fixed dice ignore defense, as does the Illumina that they also have, but, typical with physical attacks do not do well.
And is it fixed dice a guaranteed hit?
I believe so. So generally evasion is not really something you have to worry about. If you can hit the fight command, you're probably going to hit.
Right, because Magic Master also has very high evasion. Plus, like you said, the high defense.
Sure, it's one reason why Sniper Sight is a tiny little relic that you might not think too much about, but it does give you 100% accuracy on the fight command. So in a pinch, it can be the thing that gets you through this. And on top of all the annoying things that everyone said so far about Magic Master, he does hit quite hard.
Yes, I mean, we just saw that Fire 3 he cast. Shadow healed for 2,900 health, so, without that shield, Taco Mage might be looking at a reset right now if they didn't have the absorption of the fire.
And this is not a good spot to reset either, because you have to do a decent amount of walking in Kefka's Tower from the last save point. I mean, at this point, if Taco couldn't get Magimaster down, it would put these two runners at the exact same spot, because the save point is right at this well.
Yes, and one thing in case anyone missed it, so this, even though we're presenting it as a race, so there are, I believe, 5 other runners who are also in this division. So Taco Mage is currently leading the division, so Taco Mage just wants a good time and they will move on, which looks like Taco Mage is in line to do so, getting through that Magimaster. Fitz, however, is in 3rd place and only the top 2 move on. So for Fitz, it's really important they finish, if they can't win here, at least finish 2nd and really help close that gap.
And they have to hope the 2nd place person doesn't finish 1st.
Yes, which is Javinator, who is a longtime community member, very experienced runner. So that's going to be a tough competition there.
And we've got Doomgaze, Magimaster Doomgaze lane. Probably the worst combination you can think of things that people want to see.
As a viewer, I love this lane. But as a player, I'll hate it.
Yes, though, there is one nice thing here in that Doomgaze being the 2nd boss. Everybody will save after getting through that Magimaster. So at least you'll have a recent save. Where Doomgaze can really be problematic because he starts off with that level 5 Doom, is if he casts it and just wipes your party when you haven't saved for quite a while.
Yeah, I think Taco has what it takes to get through this. Doomgaze has some various threatening spells. The main thing, though, is that level 5 Doom. So if anyone's going to make a meme lane, it's going to be Magimaster Doomgaze.
Cerise, Dwyer's ask you, is this a typical Tonic B seed?
So, Tonic B is the pod that Dwyer and I have both been in for this Ultros League, and it's gotten pretty spicy. I'm not sure we got anything as individually bad as this lane, but on the aggregate, this would definitely fit right in Tonic B. And Fitz is starting that Magimaster fight.
Yeah, starting off with the life 3 on Terra, which is a very good decision. Terra's interesting here because throw will pierce the defense, so throws which you can rely on. The Illumina that they've been attacking with, will pierce defense as well. However, if it triggers Pearl, it can basically waste your time. So we're going to see Fitz throwing the Armory here just to get through this. Very nice decision.
Yeah, and I believe when Taco went through this fight, both characters, the Shadow and the Sabin, were both main party characters. In this case, I believe Fitz got rid of Sabin earlier, so Sabin is going to be staying dead on the floor for quite a while. You can throw the heal rod to do damage, but it starts by targeting you, so don't be a victim to self heal rod throwing.
That would have been me throwing it at myself.
Yeah. I'd be a little bit more worried for Fitz if it wasn't for that life 3, but this is still pretty spicy, and there goes down Doomgaze.
Yeah, I haven't been precisely tracking HP, but I think if Terra survives this, I think Magimaster should be one Ninja Star from death.
Oh, and that was a very fortunate block. And Fitz gets through beautifully.
And the one nice thing about fighting Magimaster, despite all the problems we talked about before as a boss, is that guaranteed to drop a Mega Elixir, which one of the final boss's abilities on Final Kefka, the very last final boss, is something called Fallen One, which reduces all your party members to 1 HP. So Mega Elixir just works great. It revives everyone. It raises everyone's health to max who's alive and restores all their health, all their MP. So very nice to have.
And Taco just made Kefka retreat to the top of his tower.
Yeah, Taco tried finishing a little early, but Kefka was able to get away. He'll probably be a little bit tougher at the top of the tower than he was here. Once again, that Magic Evade coming in quite handy, because that Doom is, if that hits you, you're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think Taco Mage has some very good Magic Evade here. They've got a Force Shield equipped, which is 50% Magic Evade, and then the Illumina, which is another 50% Magic Evade.
And Fitz
which is
just
not
got
actually
passed.
which is not actually equal, even though it says 100, does not equal 100% like you're immune to magic, because I think it's out of 128, if I remember right, but it's still very, very high.
So other than the center lane, the others are being pretty reasonable for us. I don't think either runner is going to have much trouble getting through that Kefka fight or this Chupon Ultros fight. And while Taco is ahead right now, Final Kefka is a long fight and a lot can happen.
Yeah. Speaking of Final Kefka, I believe this was Taco's last lane.
It
Yes.
was.
So now we get to play a little game we like to play by the Price is Right rules. For the first runner, we guess how long their final Kefka is going to be. Put your guesses in chat. Cerise, what do you think is going to be the time?
I'm gonna guess 8 minutes on the dot.
And you, Rooster?
I'm always bad at this game, but I'm gonna guess like 9:50. I just feel like the seed's gone a little too well, and there's gonna be one of the bosses that just takes forever.
8:23.
And I don't believe we had mute, which will come in quite handy in the second tier, and that can definitely, even if magic spells aren't threatening, it can take up a lot of time.
Cerise, do you want to tell us about the first tier?
Yeah, absolutely, I will. As soon as we see the big bad boy, I'll start talking. Alright, so this first tier, the bottom floor of Final Kefka, has these three things we can hit. There's the long arm, the short clenched arm, and then the head. The long arm has a death counter if it's the last one killed, but is vulnerable to instant death, so that's usually the first one that runners will kill. The head will death counter with Quake, which is an all-party magic spell that can hurt quite a bit. He also uses some annoying abilities like Dread, which can petrify you, and Reverse Polarity, which can change your party row. So runners are typically going to take that one down second. Is weak to fire. And then the Clenched Fist just counters with regular attacks that do hit hard, but are not nearly as bad.
Which I don't think the hits are going to be that bad today, considering the levels for Taco.
Exactly. And we also have everybody in the back row. It can be a little bit trickier if you have someone in the front row, which a lot of weapons need, but the Illumina does not.
Yes, and one thing to note as well is that there is a very nice visual guide. We're going to go through it, of course, as we see this, but if you're playing along at home, there's a very nice visual guide that lists off what each tier does, what your priority order should be, some of the things to worry about, all that. Very, very nice. It's located on our wiki at the FF6 Worlds Collide website, our wiki.
And we've got fits on switches, so we can put in our guesses for those as well.
With Fritz, I'm going with 901.
And now we're making our way up to Tier 2.
Which Tier 2 has 4 targetable body parts. The far left one's magic, which could cast any Tier 3 spell in a game, including status elements like Muddle, Mute, and Imp. And you hope you have Mute here. If you don't, it's going to be a long fight. Tools is the middle one, which is weak to instant death. It removes like Diffusion and Atomic Ray. The bottom right one is Tiger, which casts Southern and Northern Cross and Flare Star. And when its HP gets low, it starts casting Doom Tux also, which turns your party member into a zombie. Then Head is the far right one. He just does what his name is, hits, and his death counter is just does 10 hits randomly to your party.
Yeah, generally the strategy here, if you have instant death, you use instant death on the girl in the red dress tools. You mute the magic, which is the guy pointing to the left, and then, like you see Taco Mage here, you focus all your offense on killing that tiger head as soon as you can, because as my co-commentator mentioned, that's the one that does all sorts of super annoying stuff, freeze, zombie, etc.
And we've also got Taco casting some Life 3s on the party. That'll keep them safe through this phase, but if those Life 3s last to the next phase, it'll be handy for the Calmness mechanic, which we'll be talking about soon enough.
Yes.
The one thing to note is that even if you have muted the magic won't be able to cast spells during this. However, magic does have a death counter where they will spam dispel, so preemptively trying to buff can sometimes not really work out for you because it just gets dispelled, and that works even if you've already muted the magic.
Yeah, I would say of all of the phases, I think this is one that can go, has the biggest range of how well or poorly it can go. If you have everything you need, you can zip right through it. But just one or two nasty things or one or two pieces of the puzzle that you don't have, and it can really drag on. And we're seeing that 10 hits, so that leaves just magic left.
And you can see there why you like to mute magic if you can, because that muddle, not only do you now have a muddled character, it's a long spell animation. Magic secretly wastes a surprising amount of time if you let him just free cast.
And Fritz is moving on to tier 2.
I think Fitz is in a similar position. I don't believe we saw any mute, but we do have instant death. I believe magic can counter at lower health with some annoying spells as well, which can just waste even more time.
Yes, like that quarter we just saw.
So that we'll be seeing more of that potentially for the death counter, but even just at low HP it can waste so much time.
Yes.
And depending on what kind of protection you have, you don't want to go into the third phase at too low health, because they can open with some possible nastiness.
Oh boy. Because the one thing to note here, fortunately that life 3 is going to bail him out, or bail Taco Mage out. One thing to note here is that if a character is dead when you move on to the next tier, that character gets tossed in the dumpster and replaced with some random character from your character list. Or, excuse me, a different character from your character list. So in a case like Taco Mage or Fritz here, where you've got 4 good characters and then a bunch who haven't done anything, if they move on to the next tier and some of these people are still dead, then you can really make the rest of the fight very, very bad.
Yeah, and that muddled Sabin keeps using Runic, which will absorb a magic command. Luckily we can get those Phoenix Downs through.
If this was happened to me, it would make me really nervous.
So I think it's safe to say that my 8-minute guess is probably a little too friendly.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how you have one weak character muddled and you think it's not going to matter, and then they just do every possible thing that they have in their arsenal.
Yes.
And we are finally moving on with everybody alive.
Yes.
So now we've got Tier 3. Tier 3 has 2 parts. Lady or girl at the top only has 9,999 health. Casts Whirlwind, which will heal itself and Sleep, the bigger one, for its current HP. It absorbs every element, so you need to use non-elemental damage or physical attacks. And Sleep, the regular looking dude, will cast some pretty spicy spells like Merton, which is full party fire and wind damage, Whirlwind, which can drop you to really low health but won't kill you, and then later in the fight, things like Meteor and Train. But that's not what everyone knows this phase for. Sigil, what's the best part about this phase?
Oh, when you kill Sleep, it could do 1 to 2 physical instant death attacks to you guys.
Yeah, and like was mentioned before, if any of these characters are down at the end of this phase, they will not be joining for Final Kefka.
Which is important why Taco's put on life 3 on their characters. But also, if you don't kill Girl before sleep, Girl will cast life 2 on sleep.
Yes, I'm gonna try to be cheeky with this one.
Yeah.
And at a certain HP threshold, I believe it's with about 10,000 HP or so left.
I think it's like just underneath 12,000 left.
Yeah, we'll start to see he'll be countering with Meteo, which is non-elemental damage to everybody. Tends to miss a decent amount, but not when you want it to. As well as Train, which mutes all of your party members as well as blinds them. And we got Fitz on phase 3 as well.
Which, besides countering with them, he'll also cast those spells. So you can get a double whammy of Meteos if you're not careful.
Yeah, ideally you want to be able to do more than 10,000 damage in a turn, which can happen with Illumina procs like this, but there's no guarantees with this party.
Which Taco's going to be making their way up to tier 4.
Yeah, just the one calmness. So,
Arusta, do you want to do the honors for tier 4?
Sure. So tier 4 is just one enemy. It's just Kefka. So biggest thing about Kefka, the first couple attacks, about I believe it's 2 or 3 turns in, or a couple turns in, he will cast Fallen One, which reduces all your party to 1 health. If you have very, very high offensive output, you can actually skip that phase entirely, because once he gets below about 30,000 health, he starts countering with annoying abilities, but then also will pull out a skull and basically hold a skull in his hand and say he's charging up for Goner, and then you really want to kill him then, because if Goner goes off, it is a huge damage high party attack, but you want to do damage when he's doing that because he will not counterattack. If you hit him any other time when he's at low health, he will counter with annoying spells, possibly including Ultima. So,
will Goner do less damage to each person if more people are up?
I believe it does. It also is a magic spell, so if you have good magic defense, which, Terra holding that Illumina, or I believe some of the force shields that Fitz has equipped, will also help out as well.
after that Goner phase, Kefka does have some ways to knock you out pretty quick, with some physical attacks that tend to one-shot party members, as well as some pretty spicy counters. So if you manage to make it through... Oh, and here we've got Goner coming. We're going to try to unload as much damage as possible, so that whatever I was about to say isn't going to matter.
Yeah, and this is where you say Taco Mage unequipped all the shields and is going to blow up the shields, because as we mentioned earlier, it's a tier 3 spell that ignores magic defense. You can see doing, 9,900, 8,900 damage per shield. And there is that flash that indicates that Taco Mage has finished. We'll wait for the official time, but GG to Taco Mage, finishing first. That will pretty much set Taco Mage's official final time. Thank you to Physics Shebang for calling it out, is 1:19:16 or 1:19:15. And that will pretty much guarantee Taco Mage, since they already had a season lead, moves into the next phase. In the next Ultros League season, Taco Mage will be promoted from Elixir to Mega Elixir. So GG's.
We've got Fitz getting to tier 4. Lost Gao, but we still have, I believe, our main damage dealer, Terra.
And I believe Taco Mage joined us in the booth. GG's, Taco.
Thank you. As Glue said in the channel, that was a really buttery smooth T2.
I have a question. What was your thought process during T2?
Mostly pure panic and hoping I didn't get another full team Bolt 3. That was basically it. Crossing the fingers and going for it.
Yeah, it's amazing how much damage that one saving could do.
Yeah, the problem is that he was muddled, and I was like, well, I could hit him with fixed dice, which is probably going to kill him, or I could hit him with the Illumina, which is probably going to kill him, or I could try to burst down Spell before he gets up to too much mischief. And it was going okay until Spell kind of unleashed on me, and then Sabin decided to spend 2 or 3 turns doing Runic, which was really obnoxious.
Yeah, one of the interesting things about this race is you both have fairly different routes. Fitz went through Floating Continent. I don't think either route was necessarily better in terms of one having more dead checks, but it's exciting to have a race where both people get so close while doing so many different things, because Fitz is on Final Kefka right now.
Excellent. Yeah, and I'm sure that he had the very same thought I did when with the Magi Master Doom Gaze combo going up the center there, like Elixir A, keep being Elixir A.
I suppose we're burying the lead by not asking you how you feel about that.
Did you have special words?
I had many of them. Most of them I can't repeat on this particular restream. That was actually one of the reasons why I put both Magic and Fixed Dice in one team, is I was expecting something to happen, given that we're in Elixir A, and two things happened. So I was actually really surprised to make it through both those fights in one try.
Yeah, Fitz was able to make it through, I believe, on the first try for both, definitely for Magi Master. Taking good advantage of some high magic evade from Force Shield and Illumina, and making us all almost throw up with anticipation.
Yeah, and the kicker was I did see Berserk on an Esper at some point, but it must have been on one of the wings, because I was like, well, we don't have that.
And where Fitz is at post Goner, pretty spicy time because there are some serious counters. You can wait until Goner starts charging again.
Yeah,
Taco, how did you
that's
feel about
often
the
it.
beginning?
Beginning felt pretty okay. So I don't think I had any real major complaints about it. Getting a couple of characters under the belt real quick. Had pretty good grind opportunities available with both Serpent Trench and Imp Camp, so can't say I was too disappointed in the start.
All right, and Fitz should be getting through this pretty quick before this finishes up. Bringing back Coin Toss again. Throw in the Illumina. And
Finishing the
there's
seed in
Ow.
style by throwing the Illumina.
GG to both of our runners. Always fun seeing both runners on Final Kefka at the same time.
Taco, how did you feel about this Ultra League season as a whole?
As a whole, I was surprised I did as well as I did. Previous season, I did not do very well at all. I must have got a buy into Elixir League again because I did so terrible last year, and this year I just all felt like it came together. I've been putting down times that I'm actually really happy with overall. I mean, for Elixir A.
Yeah, very strong showing from both of these Elixir runners. I mean, when you see one person doing so well, like Utaka who won, and you see Fitz right behind you, it really just goes to show how much strength is in the Elixir tier.
Yeah, and I know it was a pretty contested first spot between myself, Jav, and Fitz. So I'm checking in the lobby now, and it's definitely going to be coming down to points in the end, I think.
Yeah, as you can imagine, there's a little bit less stress in the Tonic division.
Yeah, I remember fond memories of the Tonic division. That was one where it came down to a three-way in my division. It was a three-way tie for first place, and I won it on like 12 seconds on average time. So it can be exciting at all levels of Ultros League, not just the top end. Even the bottom end can be very close and very competitive.
Yeah, as I'm sure you've seen some of us in Tonic be complaining about our seeds. The spikes can happen anywhere.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right, so thank you very much, Taco Mage. Really appreciate it. We are also joined by one free Fitz, I believe. Fitz, how are you doing as well?
Hello. Not too bad. Not too bad.
So what did you think about the overall way the seed played out, especially that center lane. We had a good laugh about the Doomgaze and Magimaster combo.
My goodness, like just typical of this type of seeds we've had to play all season long. That every time it's like, oh, this is some good offense, or oh, this is like a fast start. There's always something going on. It was scary, but my Terra was pretty unhittable with magic. So with the life 3, I felt like I could get through that one. And then the Doomgaze, I had no idea what level I was. So it was like, well, we're going to find out.
Yes. Fritz, can you walk us through what you were thinking when you chose to do the floating continent play?
I needed more espers, and I could use some fights, so it just kind of seemed like the thing to do to get some of those good espers. I think I had peaked around. No, that might have been before I did Saban's checks. It just felt like it was time. It was early enough that I still felt like there was a chance to do it. And with like a throw / Illumina user, I knew I was going to need levels because I was going to really rely on them to be my carry towards the end, which they were.
And you did handle the bosses in Floating Continent quite well. A lot of beefcakes in there, which you got through, ending with the nice and relaxing vanilla Narapa.
Yeah, definitely some thick ones up there. I'll be curious on the watch back, and I got to look at the others too. Just kind of like, was there a different route that was maybe faster? Like I felt like I was playing like pretty well. I got kind of bogged down in the actual Kefka fight because I didn't have mute, and so I had to play. I was playing it safer.
You both didn't have mute.
Yeah, despite a pretty big route divergence and you getting a bunch of espers in Floating Continent and Taco not going to Floating Continent, neither of you ended up with mute. And I don't believe either of you ended up with any calmness protection besides that life 3 and Phantom. So there was another route, you didn't necessarily miss much from it.
Yeah, because I did monkey around in the Coliseum, and then I got burned because I got stopped and I hadn't saved, and I don't know, that Atma weapon didn't really do. I was hoping that like Shadow could use it maybe, or like for an offering in there, but I think that was like kind of a waste of time.
Yeah, not a team with a lot of great equipment options. You hope the randomizer will give them some good options, but just didn't happen this time. The one person who could use it could just throw shurikens all game.
Yeah, I'm like, well, Gao could use everything, but didn't have a fight command available, so that wasn't really.
He was just a big tease in that aspect.
On the table, I don't know. It was like our seeds were all kind of tough. Like I think our average amongst the Elixir division is probably the highest. We never really had any fast ones. I think I will find myself yet again in 3rd place, like almost getting promoted, but not quite. So we'll have to go back to the workshop and
But you'll
tweak
always
the
be
game.
in Mega Elixir division in our hearts.
Yes.
Well, I was trying. There's both people coming up from Potion and people coming down from Mega Elixir that I was hoping to just like duck and jump up to Mega Elixir, immediately get demoted back again with another season of experience. So didn't happen, but still had a good time. And yeah, like I just never got that W in the season. A lot of like top 4s, but no firsts in Ultros League. Like kind of hard to be top 2 without at least one win.
Well, I believe in you for next season, and you still put on a great showing this season. And I mean, everyone's just done amazingly, despite all of the gnarly seeds we've all been given.
Yes. And this was a great race.
Yeah, it was definitely like close, and I feel like yeah, a little bit better decision skipping the Coliseum, and it's neck and neck, but
Yeah.
just how it
Do you
is
yeah.
sometimes.
Do you have any plans of what you're going to do in the off season between seasons?
Well, I don't know. There's always other randos going on. I need to actually do some like organizing because I'm trying to get a like Jets of Time new player sort of mini camp going to start the new year. I am in the Ancient Cave spoiler log tournament. I got bumped to the losers bracket, so a little of that. You know, I'll be randoing, no
Yes.
doubt. And there's always the underground, um, even after the season's over. So
Good luck with the ancient cave.
thank you.
Well,
Yeah,
since you mentioned the underground, I think that's a good thing to mention, and then we can sort of start wrapping up. Is that if you've enjoyed the Ultros League, so this is the last weekend of Ultros League, or last week of Ultros League itself. However, in the off season, there is Ultros Underground, which runs Ultros League every single week. It's just in our Discord, which you can find on FF6 Worlds Collide. A link to our Discord. It's also a great place to find seeds. Typically, we also don't take my word on this because I don't know the schedule, but typically we have tournaments as well in between the Ultros League seasons. So I've heard they're cooking up something very nice. I don't know when that's going to kick off, but of course, again, that will be on the Discord and on our webpage. And so thank you, everyone, very much. I really appreciate Taco Mage and One Free Fits for letting us restream this and commentate this. This has been a very good seed. My name is Arusta. My co-commentators are Cirrus Rose and Sigil, Drinks Glue as well, who is behind the scenes doing the restream, and then Cheech, who has been doing the tracking. So any final thoughts, Cirrus or Sigil?
I like to say that I believe tomorrow we have the community race at 2 p.m., which is a 100% run.
That is correct. We have the 100% run, which is tomorrow. I believe it is on, I'm just checking. I believe it's on the FF6 Worlds Collide stream on Twitch, which is just twitch.tv/FF6 Worlds Collide. As well, next week, I believe on Monday, we've got what we call our Golden Golems, which is our FF6 Worlds Collide, basically our year-end review, which is 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Monday, again on the FF6 Worlds Collide channel. So hope to see everyone there. And if you're not familiar with the randomizer, if you've liked what you've seen today, again, you can find it on our website. Mentioned this several times, but we have a very active Beginner's House Discord channel where people will help out, and then various mentoring and teaching programs to help out newbies, help you get used to and just understanding what's going on. So thank you very much.
And Sarisa Rooster, thank you for joining me in the booth. And like Rooster said, thanks Drinks for putting this on behind the scenes, and Cheech for the tracking. And to our two amazing runners tonight, One Free Fritz and Taco Mage. Do you have anything to say, Cerise?
again, thanks to our runners. They're the ones who everyone's here to see, not just to hear our voices. Absolutely join the community if this is interesting to you at all. This is one of the first randomizers that I got into. The community makes it so easy. Everybody's so nice. Everyone's tripping over each other to help you out. And definitely, if you're interested, but you feel like you don't know enough about the game, or it's been too long since you played, watch that 100% run, and you'll see just about every check that exists.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you very much for the. Excuse me. Let me give a special thank you to RPG Limit Break for being our gracious host this evening. Guys, y'all did a fantastic job, and yeah, with that, I will sign us off. We hope everyone has a wonderful evening.